Welcome back to your latest industry recap. Two stories for you today, one on American aircraft manufacturer Boeing, and lastly, we have Icelandair developments. One will begin with Boeing. At the beginning of 2024, a door blowout occurred on a 737 MAX jet. Yes, this shocked the entire industry, but especially Boeing. While the incident was concerning, physically, everyone walked away, relatively harm-free, you'd say. At least there were no casualties. While this wouldn't happen again aboard any other MAX aircraft, it would hardly be an isolated incident for the ramifications that would follow and what was prevented because of findings. Subsequent groundings, as investigators attempted to get to the bottom of the problem, would identify further complications in similarities found in other MAX planes with loose bolts, indicating that they were improperly produced, and warning bells certainly went off here. The findings revealed that the Federal Aviation Administration, more commonly referred to as the FAA, would need to step up its oversight of Boeing. The governing regulator's tactic of increasing oversight was to basically assert itself as a continued presence and gain a greater view of what the day-to-day operations look like at Boeing to determine the extent of what quality slips were actually occurring throughout the many years that we had seen these unfold. It's necessary to mention that following several MAX incidents in the latter stages of the 2010s, Boeing witnessed aircraft groundings and sustained pressure to rebuild its business. Under new leadership, it was, however, presumed that they had been taking the right steps under course correction action that would look to prevent persistent quality slips from occurring, help the manufacturer rebuild and emerge as a leading company. However, after 4 years, in the first week of 2024, the door blowout really showed the sheer lack of progress that had ultimately been made and the corners that had been cut, alongside the substantial amount of lies that we had witnessed as well. As a result, the FAA had no choice but to really take a hard look at the plane maker and, bar production increases, cap production rates. It added that it really wanted to see substantial change in the business across all fronts before it would allow Boeing to increase core parts of its business that would then have a knock-on effect to customers and finances in a more positive manner. It was harsh restrictions, but it was felt a necessary step from the governing regulator, who in the past maybe hadn't been as strict on Boeing, and therefore we had seen so many quality slips occur. They were trying to find ways to stop this. Strong emphasis was placed on rebuilding the company's identity, which should align with the highest production standards and therefore safety in day-to-day operations. These core focal points have arguably been missing from Boeing for a prolonged period, and many wanted that to change. Oversight in 2025, it is the big talking point when surrounding the plane maker. Many feel that if strict oversight is to continue, well, Boeing's troubles are only going to rampage on further. While it has been deemed necessary, its significance has been unparalleled and it's affected Boeing's operations. The manufacturer has been, for example, unable to increase production due to concerns that further quality slips will creep in. This is something Boeing hasn't necessarily argued against, however, because the mutual feeling is that if Boeing were allowed to increase production so soon after the initial quality slip-ups in early 2024, it would negate all the investments that were being made and to try really turn around. The goal from this oversight effort is to not have any more quality slip-ups take place. But really all of this has put their finances in disarray for many reasons, but also thanks to the need to compensate airlines. That compensation is driven by Boeing's lowered production rate and internal issues. Due to these, and don't worry, many other difficulties, they've not been able to deliver planes on time, plunging customers into disarray. Easing oversight has been broadly considered the only way for Boeing to move forward. But the thing is, it's not expected to happen anytime soon. The Federal Aviation Administration essentially confirmed at the beginning of the 2025 calendar year that they don't expect to lessen their oversight into the plane maker anytime soon, despite progress clearly being made from Boeing to fundamentally change. They state that the oversight was never meant to be an overnight job. It was going to be a long ordeal, many years in fact. Boeing has already invested hundreds of millions into new initiatives to improve prove itself, but the FAA knows it's in this for the long haul, and easing the grip on the company, which has encountered so many issues and to them proven time and time again that they're not able to operate on their own, is not something they're interested in doing. But really the goal for 2025 should be to find ways to allow Boeing to move forward in a safe manner so the industry doesn't hurt even more. Finding that balance is critical, but also not jeopardizing safety. Over to the final story, and that's Icelandair, who are bringing in the new year by announcing record performance across 2024. The full year, they saw the transportation of 4.7 million passengers. This is a record and is a 9% growth year over year. All things considered, it's a relatively big number and massive growth for a small company. Meanwhile, in December alone, they carried 312,000 passengers through their doors, this an 18% rise compared to the same month 1 year prior. The increase in passengers was further highlighted through the positive performance concerning the load factor, with this hitting a record 82.6% in December. What's more staggering is this represented a 10 percentage point increase from the last year. Demand, Icelandair says, has been strong right throughout the year, however it can't be taken for granted, and they must find ways to continue catering to people's desire to travel with limited operational shutdowns. While December typically sees strong levels of demand that help passenger numbers surge, substantial increase is a positive sign for the airline as they continue to try and advance and find ways to carve out new market share in what is a highly competitive market that is very easy to fall behind in if you're not careful. As for the airline's on-time performance, well, this was another critical year for recovery but also improvement, with the figure reaching 82.7% in what was recapped as a strong year all round, despite some blemishes in December and even earlier with volcanic eruptions. Speaking on volcanic eruptions, Icelandair is unique for its weather conditions, so they know they must be Iceland is unique for its weather conditions, so Icelandair therefore must be prepared for, at a moment's notice, utter carnage to ensue on its day-to-day flying capabilities. And as a result, while on-time performance is very important for this airline, it can be massively affected at the drop of a hat, and not necessarily be within its own control. But what does 2025 look like? Well, they remain cautiously optimistic about their prospects this year. It's going to be another important one, with growth and renewal efforts. At least for the outlook point of view, they're looking to see growth reach 8% more for the route network, with the focus on capacity increase more than ever across the off-peak months. What I mean by this is the company wants to find a better means to improve the utilization of the core infrastructure it has built up and worked so hard to do during months that are typically not as busy. Utilizing assets for companies such as Icelandair during the slower months continues to be a real battle and a core point of focus, as these type of airlines experience excellent seasonal demand, but then may struggle to translate this demand into your quieter periods. Icelandair will also continue focusing on fleet renewal efforts as we say goodbye to Boeing 757s on a continued basis. Remember, the Dash 300 was retired last year. That'll conclude today's aviation update. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.